Dying ranch widow tearfully hands her baby to a cowboy drifter. What follows will shock you. Martha stood alone on the porch of her small ranch house, watching the sun slowly disappear behind the distant hills. The wind moved through the dry grass, and the ranch felt even more empty than usual. The ranch had once been full of life, her husband's laughter, the sound of horses, and the steady rhythm of work. Now it was only her and a baby boy who could not yet speak. She held her son, Tommy, close to her chest. He was only a few months old, but his bright eyes already looked like he was trying to understand the world. Martha had always believed she could protect him. She had always believed she could keep him safe no matter what happened. But lately, she felt something inside her changing. A tiredness that did not go away. A cough that came and stayed. She tried to ignore it because she had no choice. The ranch needed her. Tommy needed her. The horses needed food and the fields needed water. Every day was a struggle. Martha had not always been a widow. There was a time when her husband, Jacob, was alive. He was a strong man who worked from dawn until dusk. He always smiled, even when things were hard. He used to say that the ranch was not just land, it was a promise to keep going no matter what. One winter, Jacob went out to fix a fence during a heavy storm. He never returned. The next morning, the neighbors found his horse alone, standing in the snow. Jacob was gone. Martha did not know how to explain the emptiness she felt. It was not just sadness. It was a quiet kind of fear. After Jacob's death, the ranch became Martha's only world. She did not have family nearby. The nearest town was miles away, and people did not travel often. Most of the neighbors were busy with their own lives. No one asked too many questions. People in that area respected privacy. They believed in handling their own problems alone. Martha did her best. She worked harder than she ever had before. She learned how to fix things that she had never touched before. She learned how to ride the horses properly. She learned how to move through the cold mornings without feeling afraid. She did all of this while raising a baby. But raising a baby was harder than anything else. Tommy's cries filled the house at night. Martha would stand in the dim light, rocking him back and forth, and feel her heart break a little more each time. She would whisper, "It's okay, little one. I'm here." But she knew she was not as strong as she used to be. Some days Martha felt like she was holding the world on her shoulders. She had to be both mother and father. She had to be the person who could fix anything and the person who could comfort the child when he was scared. She had to be brave even when she felt weak. One late afternoon, as the sun turned the sky orange, Martha heard the sound of hooves approaching. She froze. No one came to her ranch often. The road was long and rough, and the trip was dangerous for strangers. She walked to the gate slowly, holding Tommy close. The baby looked up at her with curious eyes. Martha tried to stay calm, but her heart was beating fast. A man rode into the ranch on a tired-looking horse. He was tall and thin, wearing a worn-out hat and a dusty coat. His face was weathered, like he had spent many years under the sun. He looked like a man who had seen a lot of hard things in his life. He stopped his horse near the gate and pulled off his hat. His hair was dark and his eyes were quiet. He did not look like someone who wanted trouble. But Martha did not know him. She did not trust anyone. The man spoke in a low voice. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Caleb. I'm a drifter. I've been traveling for a long time, and I'm looking for work. I saw your ranch and wondered if you might need help." Martha stared at him for a moment. Her mind raced. She wanted to say no. She wanted to protect herself and her baby. But she also felt the weight of her own weakness. She was tired. The ranch needed help, and she had no one else. "What kind of work do you do?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Caleb looked down for a moment. Then he said, "I can do anything. I can ride. I can fix fences. I can help with the cattle. I can cook. I just need a place to stay for a little while." Martha looked at his hands. They were strong, with scars and rough skin. She could tell he had worked hard in his life. He did not look like a man who would harm her, but she still felt uneasy. The baby began to cry, and Martha felt her own heart break again. She lifted Tommy and tried to calm him, but he was hungry. Martha had been so busy that she had not prepared enough food for herself, and she knew she was running low on supplies. She needed help, but she did not want to admit it. Caleb watched her quietly. He did not move quickly. He did not push her. He waited patiently, like he understood that she was trying to protect herself. Finally, Martha said, "You can stay for a few days, but you must understand, this ranch is my life. I don't want any trouble." Caleb nodded. "I understand." Martha led him inside the house. She gave him a small room in the back, and she told him where he could find water and food. She did not ask him many questions. She did not want to know too much about his past. She just wanted to survive. As the night grew darker, Martha sat by the fireplace, watching Caleb quietly move around the kitchen. He was careful and respectful. He did not touch anything without asking. He did not act like he owned the place. Tommy slept in Martha's arms. She felt tired, but she could not sleep. Her mind kept returning to her husband's death. She kept thinking about the future. She kept thinking about the day when she would not be able to take care of her son anymore. She did not want to think about that day, but she could not stop. Caleb spoke softly from the kitchen. "Ma'am, if you need anything, just ask." Martha looked up. She did not know why, but his voice sounded sincere. It did not sound like a trick or a lie. It sounded like someone who had learned to be kind in a world that was not kind. "Thank you," she said quietly. The next morning, Caleb woke early. He walked outside and began checking the fence. Martha watched him from the porch. He worked without complaining. His movements were careful and strong. He seemed to know what he was doing. Martha felt a strange feeling in her chest. She did not trust him yet, but she felt grateful. She felt relieved. For the first time in weeks, she felt like someone might actually help her. Later that day, she watched Caleb feed the horses. He spoke softly to them, like he knew their names. He made sure they had enough water. He even cleaned the trough without being asked. Martha had always loved animals. She knew that a person who could be gentle with animals might also be gentle with people. She had seen too many men who were rough and careless. Now, Caleb was not like that. The baby cried again, and Martha felt her body weaken. She carried Tommy into the house and sat down. She felt dizzy for a moment. Her chest felt tight. She tried to breathe slowly. Caleb noticed immediately. He came inside and said, "Are you all right?" Martha forced a smile. "I'm fine, just tired." Caleb looked at her with concern. "You should rest. I can take care of the baby." Martha shook her head. "No, I can handle it." Caleb did not argue. He simply said, "Okay, but if you need me, I'm here." Martha felt something shift inside her. She did not know why she was thinking about this man so much. She did not know why she felt a strange trust in him. She had always been careful. She had always been alone, but now she felt like maybe she did not have to be alone. That evening, Caleb sat by the fire with Martha. They did not speak much. The silence was not uncomfortable. It felt calm, almost peaceful. Tommy slept quietly in his cradle. Martha watched her son and felt her eyes fill with tears. She did not know what would happen tomorrow. She did not know if she would wake up. She did not know if she would be able to keep the ranch going. But for the first time in a long time, she felt a small sense of hope. She looked at Caleb and whispered, "Thank you." Caleb nodded, but he did not say anything. He simply looked back at her with quiet eyes. It was not a look of pity. It was a look of understanding. Martha wondered what kind of life Caleb had lived. She wondered why he was alone. She wondered if he had a family somewhere. But she did not ask. She did not want to scare him away. She just wanted to hold on to the moment of peace. As the night grew deeper, Martha closed her eyes and tried to sleep. But the fear remained. She knew the ranch was still dangerous. She knew the world was still harsh. She knew she might not be strong enough to survive. But she also knew something else. She knew that, for now, she was not completely alone. And that thought gave her a quiet strength that she had not felt in a long time. Martha woke up before sunrise. The cold air felt sharp against her skin and she pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Tommy was sleeping in the cradle beside her bed. His tiny chest rose and fell slowly. Martha watched him for a long time, feeling a pain deep inside her that she could not explain. She had been feeling sick for weeks, but now it was getting worse. The cough she had tried to ignore had turned into something stronger. She felt weak, like her body was slowly giving up. Some days she could barely stand. Some nights she woke up coughing so hard that her chest hurt. She did not tell anyone. She did not want to worry the neighbors. She did not want to admit that she was not strong enough anymore. But she knew the truth. She was getting worse. The next morning, Caleb was already outside working. Martha watched him through the window as he repaired a broken fence. His movements were steady, and his face showed no sign of complaint. He was doing the work of two men without asking for anything in return. Martha felt a mix of gratitude and shame. She opened the door and stepped outside. The cold air hit her face, and she felt a wave of dizziness. She took a deep breath and forced herself to walk toward Caleb. "Good morning," Caleb said, without turning around. His voice was calm. "Morning," Martha replied. She tried to sound normal, but her voice came out weak. Caleb stopped working and turned to face her. He looked at her carefully, like he was trying to understand what she was feeling. "You look tired," he said. Martha forced a small smile. "I'm fine." Caleb did not say anything. He simply nodded and returned to his work. Martha felt a sting of frustration. She hated that she could not hide her weakness. She went back inside and took Tommy into her arms. The baby's small body felt warm and soft against her skin. She rocked him gently and whispered, "It's okay, baby. Mama's here." But she knew she was not always going to be there. The day went on. Caleb continued working outside, fixing fences and feeding the animals. Martha tried to help, but every movement felt heavy. She felt her muscles shake. She felt her breath become short. At noon, she heard the sound of a wagon approaching. The ranch was quiet, and the sound surprised her. She looked toward the road and saw a man riding in a small wagon. He was wearing a coat that looked like it had been made for someone with money. His hat was clean, and his boots were polished. Martha did not recognize him. The man stopped near the gate and looked around. He saw Caleb working and then looked at Martha standing on the porch. He smiled politely. "Good day," he said. "I'm Dr. Hayes. I heard you might need some help." Martha felt her heart jump. A doctor. She had not seen a doctor in years. She did not even know if she could afford one. But she also knew she needed help. She could not keep pretending. She stepped down from the porch and walked toward the doctor. She held Tommy close. Her hands were shaking. "Doctor," she said quietly, "please come inside." The doctor nodded and climbed out of the wagon. He looked at Martha with a calm expression. He was not the kind of man who showed shock or surprise. He looked like someone who had seen many difficult things in his life. Caleb stopped working and watched from a distance. He did not interfere. He knew this was something Martha needed to handle. Inside the house, the doctor sat at the table and looked at Martha carefully. He listened to her breathing. He looked at her eyes. He looked at her hands. He watched how she moved. After a few minutes, he spoke. "You've been sick for a while," he said. "How long has this been going on?" Martha swallowed hard. "A few months," the doctor nodded. "And the cough has been getting worse?" Martha nodded. The doctor's face became serious. He said, "Martha, I'm going to be honest with you. You are very sick. Your lungs are weak. It's not just a simple cold. You need rest. You need medicine. And you need help." Martha felt her throat tighten. She had been trying to hide the truth from herself. She had been trying to believe that she could still handle everything alone. But the doctor's words made the truth impossible to ignore. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor looked at her with a gentle expression. "I think you are dying." The words hit her like a blow. Martha's vision blurred. She tried to stand, but her legs felt weak. She grabbed the table for support. Caleb stepped inside quickly and stood beside her. He did not say anything. He simply held her arm to steady her. His presence felt strong and calm. Martha looked at him and felt a strange mix of emotions. She felt fear. She felt anger. She felt sadness. But she also felt relief. She had been carrying the weight of her illness alone. Now someone knew. The doctor continued, "I'm sorry. There is no cure for what you have. The best I can do is help you feel comfortable. You need to rest and stop working. But I know that is not possible for you." Martha shook her head. "I have to keep the ranch. I have to take care of my son." The doctor looked at her with sadness. "That is exactly why you need help. You cannot do it alone. You need someone to take care of Tommy and keep the ranch running." Martha looked down at her hands. Her fingers were shaking. She did not know what to say. She did not know what to do. She had always believed she could do everything by herself, but now she felt her strength slipping away. Caleb looked at the doctor and said, "Doctor, if she needs help, I can stay. I can help take care of the ranch." The doctor nodded. That might be the only way. Martha stared at Caleb. Her eyes filled with tears. She did not want to accept his help. She did not want to owe anyone anything. She did not want to feel weak, but she also knew she had no choice. The doctor packed his bag and prepared to leave. He spoke softly to Martha before he went. "Rest as much as you can," he said. "Try to keep your body warm. Eat what you can. And remember, you do not have to do this alone." Martha watched the doctor leave. She stood at the door and watched his wagon disappear down the road. Her heart felt heavy. She turned back toward the house and saw Caleb sitting on the porch steps. He was holding Tommy in his arms. The baby was quiet, sleeping peacefully. Caleb looked up at Martha and nodded. Martha walked toward him slowly. She sat down beside him and took Tommy from his arms. She held her son close. She looked at Caleb and said, "I don't know how much time I have." Caleb did not speak right away. He looked at her with a calm expression. Then he said, "You don't have to face this alone."
"I'm here." Martha's eyes filled with tears again.
She had been so proud for so long. She had refused help from everyone. She had believed that asking for help meant she was weak, but now she understood something new. Asking for help was not weakness, it was survival. That night, Martha sat by the fire with Caleb. The house was quiet, except for the soft sound of the fire. Tommy slept peacefully in his cradle. Martha felt her body grow weaker with each breath. She looked at Caleb and asked, "Why are you helping me?" Caleb paused for a moment. He looked down at his hands. Then he said, "Because you're human. Because your baby is human. Because I've been alone for a long time and I know what it feels like." Martha stared at him. She could not tell if he was telling the truth or not, but his voice sounded sincere. She did not know what his past was. She did not know why he was a drifter. She did not know what he had seen, but she knew that he was here, and he was not leaving. Martha's tears fell silently. She felt her body shaking. She felt the fear again. She did not want to leave her son alone in the world. She did not want him to grow up without a mother. She did not want him to be forgotten. But she also felt something else. She felt a strange hope. She felt that maybe, just maybe, Caleb could keep her promise. The promise she had made to her husband before he died. The promise to keep their son safe. Martha held Tommy tightly and whispered, "I need you to keep him safe." Caleb nodded slowly. "I will." Martha did not know how she could trust him completely, but she felt in her heart that he meant it. At night, Martha fell asleep with her baby in her arms. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know how long she had left, but she knew that she was not alone. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Martha woke before sunrise again, but this morning felt different. The air seemed colder, and her body felt heavier. She held Tommy close to her chest and listened to his soft breathing. The baby's small fingers curled around her shirt. Martha looked at him and felt a pain in her heart that she could not explain. She had been thinking about the doctor's words all night. "You are dying." The thought kept returning to her like a cold wind that would not stop blowing. She tried to push it away, but she could not. Martha knew she had to face the truth. She could not keep pretending she was fine. She could not keep living like she had all the time in the world. She looked at Tommy and whispered, "I don't know what to do." Tommy stirred in her arms, and she felt a small smile appear on his face. His eyes opened and looked up at her. It was as if he was trying to tell her that he trusted her, no matter what. Martha took a deep breath and stood up. She walked outside slowly, leaning on the doorframe for support. Caleb was already awake, and he was working in the yard. He noticed her immediately and stopped what he was doing. "How are you feeling today?" he asked. Martha tried to smile. "Not good." Caleb walked closer. "You should rest. I can take care of the work." Martha shook her head. "You've already done so much." Caleb looked at her with calm eyes. "You don't need to carry this alone. You're not alone anymore." Martha felt tears in her eyes. She did not know why he was so kind to her. She did not know what he wanted from her, but she felt a strange sense of trust in him. She took Tommy and went inside. She sat down on a chair and looked around the room. The house was small and simple, but it was full of memories. She remembered her husband, Jacob, and how he used to sit by the fire after a long day. She remembered the way he would laugh when the baby would kick his legs. She remembered how he always said that they would make it through anything. Now, Jacob was gone, and Martha was left alone with her son. She thought about the future. She thought about what would happen to Tommy if she died. She thought about the ranch and how it would fall apart without someone to care for it. She knew she needed to make a decision. She stood up and walked to the table. She opened a drawer and pulled out an old notebook. Inside were notes about the ranch, where the fences were broken, where the water pipes were, where the animals were kept. She had written everything down because she did not want to forget. She stared at the notebook for a long time. Then she picked up a pencil and began writing a letter. She wrote slowly because her hand shook. She wrote, "To whoever finds this, please take care of my son. Please take care of the ranch. I cannot do it alone." She stopped and looked at the paper. Her eyes filled with tears. She did not want to write those words. She did not want to admit that she might not be able to take care of her son. She thought of her husband again. Jacob had always said that the ranch was their promise. Martha did not want to break that promise. But she knew she could not keep the ranch alone. She sat down and took a deep breath. She looked at the door and thought about Caleb. He was the only person who had shown her kindness in a long time. He had worked hard without asking for anything. He had cared for Tommy when she was too weak. She remembered the way he had held her when she felt dizzy. She remembered his quiet voice. She remembered the way he looked at her, not with pity, but with understanding. Martha stood up and walked outside. Caleb was feeding the horses. The sun was rising and the sky was bright. The air was still cold, but the morning looked peaceful. Martha walked toward him and said, "Caleb, can I talk to you?" Caleb nodded. "Of course." Martha sat down on a nearby log. She held Tommy close. She looked at Caleb and tried to find the right words. "I know you are not just a drifter," she said softly. "You have been through something." Caleb's face did not change. He simply looked at her. "I have been through many things," he said, "but that does not matter." Martha nodded. "It matters to me. I need to know why you are here." Caleb took a deep breath. He looked away for a moment, as if he was trying to find the right words. "My name is Caleb," he said. "I used to have a ranch. I used to have a family." Martha's eyes widened. "You did?" Caleb nodded. "Yes, but I lost them. I lost everything." Martha felt her heart ache. She did not know why, but she felt a connection to him. She felt like he understood loss better than anyone. "What happened?" she asked quietly. Caleb looked down at the ground. "A fire. It destroyed everything. I was the only one who survived." Martha's eyes filled with tears. She could not imagine losing everything like that. She could not imagine waking up one day and finding nothing left. Caleb continued, "After that, I couldn't stay. I couldn't face the place, so I left. I became a drifter." Martha listened carefully. She felt a strange feeling in her chest. She felt sympathy for him. She felt respect. She also felt something else, hope. Because if Caleb had lost everything and still kept going, maybe he could help her too. Martha looked at him and said, "I need someone to keep my son safe." Caleb's eyes softened. "I know. Martha's voice shook. "I'm not sure how much time I have left. The doctor said I'm dying." Caleb's face became serious. He did not speak for a moment. Then he said, "I'm sorry. I wish there was something I could do." Martha looked at him. She could feel her heart beating fast. She knew what she had to do. She took a deep breath and said, "I want you to promise me something." Caleb nodded. "What is it?" Martha held Tommy close and looked into Caleb's eyes. "I want you to promise me that if I die, you will take care of him." Caleb's eyes widened slightly. He looked surprised. He had not expected her to ask that. Martha continued, "I know it's a big thing to ask, but you've already shown you can care for him. I can see it. I can feel it. I trust you." Caleb looked down at Tommy. The baby was sleeping peacefully. Caleb's face softened even more. He looked back at Martha and said, "I promise." Martha felt her eyes fill with tears. She did not know how she could ever repay him. She did not know how she could ever say thank you enough. But she knew that she had made the right choice. She had finally found someone she could trust. That evening, the ranch was quiet. The animals were fed. The work was done. Martha sat by the fire and watched Caleb move around the kitchen. He was preparing a small meal. Martha felt a strange peace in her heart. She still felt weak. She still felt scared. But she felt a small hope too. She looked at Caleb and whispered, "Thank you for staying." Caleb nodded. "You don't need to thank me." Martha smiled sadly. "I do." Caleb looked at her and said, "You don't have to face this alone. Not anymore." Martha held Tommy close and rested her head against the wall. She felt her body grow tired. She closed her eyes for a moment and listened to the sound of the fire. She thought about her husband. She thought about the promise she had made. She thought about the future. She did not know what would happen tomorrow. She did not know if she would still be alive, but she knew one thing: her son would not be alone. And that thought gave her a strength she did not know she still had. Martha woke up with a strange feeling in her chest. She felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, and the air seemed heavier than usual. She looked at Tommy sleeping in his cradle, and she felt a wave of fear. She had made her promise to Caleb. She had asked him to take care of her son if she died. She believed he would keep that promise. But the thought of leaving Tommy behind still made her feel like her heart was breaking. Martha got up slowly. She could feel her body becoming weaker. Her legs trembled as she walked to the kitchen. She looked at the empty room and felt a deep sadness. The ranch was quiet. The silence made her feel alone, even with Caleb nearby. She heard the sound of footsteps outside. Caleb was already working. She watched him through the window as he moved among the animals. He was quiet and calm. He looked like he belonged there. Martha went outside and walked toward Caleb. She held Tommy close to her chest. Caleb stopped what he was doing and looked at her. "Are you feeling any better today?" he asked. Martha shook her head. "No." Caleb's face became serious. He walked closer and said, "You should rest. I can handle the work." Martha looked at him. She wanted to say no, but she knew she could not keep pushing herself. She could feel her body giving out. She nodded and said, "Okay." Caleb took the baby from her arms and held him gently. Tommy looked up at Caleb and smiled. Martha felt her heart warm for a moment. She saw the trust in her son's eyes. He was not afraid of Caleb. He was comfortable with him. Martha felt a strange feeling of relief, but it was mixed with fear. She knew she could not be the mother Tommy needed for much longer. You cannot trust a stranger with him. Martha looked down at Tommy. He was sleeping in her arms. She felt her eyes fill with tears. She wanted to scream. She wanted to say, "You don't know him. You don't know what he has been through." But she stayed quiet. Mr. Lewis nodded and rode away. Martha watched him leave. She felt a deep sadness. She knew the town would not be kind. She knew people would judge her for trusting Caleb. That night, Martha sat by the fire and watched Caleb. He was cooking a simple meal. The firelight reflected on his face. Martha felt a strange sense of peace, but she also felt fear. She knew the town would not accept Caleb. She knew they would judge him. She knew they would not believe him. She looked at Caleb and asked, "What will you do if they try to take Tommy away?" Caleb looked up at her. His eyes were calm. "I will not let anyone hurt him." Martha nodded. She believed him. She wanted to believe him. But the fear still remained. A few days later, the rumors turned into action. A group of men from the town arrived at the ranch. They rode up in a line, their faces serious. Martha stood on the porch with Tommy in her arms. Caleb stood beside her. He did not move, but his eyes were watching the men carefully. The leader of the group stepped forward. It was Mr. Lewis. He looked at Martha and said, "We need to talk." Martha's heart pounded. She knew this conversation would not be easy. Mr. Lewis spoke first. "Martha, we heard that you are letting a stranger stay with you. We are worried about the baby." Martha looked at him. "He is not a stranger anymore. He is helping me. He is taking care of the ranch." "Mr. Pavish." Lewis shook his head. "That is not enough. You're sick. You're not thinking clearly."
"We want to help you. We want to make sure Tommy is safe."
Martha's voice shook. "Tommy is safe. Caleb is not going to hurt him." One of the men stepped forward and said, "We are not saying he will hurt him, but we need to be sure." Caleb finally spoke. His voice was calm, but firm. "I am not here to hurt anyone. I am here to help." "Mr. Lewis looked at Caleb and said, "We don't know that. We don't know your story." Caleb nodded. "You don't have to know my story. You only need to know what I'm doing now." Mr. Lewis stared at Caleb for a moment. Then he looked at Martha again. "Martha, we want you to sign a paper that says you agree to let us help take care of Tommy." Martha felt her heart sink. She had not expected that. She did not want to give up her son. She did not want to let the town control her life. She looked at Caleb. He looked back at her with a calm expression. Martha took a deep breath and said, "No, I will not sign anything." The men looked surprised. Mr. Lewis frowned. "You are making a mistake." Martha felt her anger rise. He looked at the men and said, "You don't understand. Caleb is the only person who has been kind to me. He is the only person who has helped me when I needed it. If you take Tommy away, you will be taking him from the only person who cares." Mr. Lewis's face softened a little. He looked at Martha with sadness. "We only want what is best." Martha nodded, but she still felt a strong fear. She knew that the town would not give up easily. She knew they would continue to watch them. She knew they would continue to judge Caleb. That night, Martha lay in bed and thought about everything that had happened. She felt tired. She felt weak. She felt scared. But she also felt something else. She felt a strong trust in Caleb. She felt that he was the only person who could keep her promise. She looked at Tommy sleeping in his cradle and whispered, "I hope you will be okay." The next morning, Martha woke up with a new fear. She felt like the town was watching her. She felt like they were waiting for her to make a mistake. She felt like her life was not her own anymore. She went outside and saw Caleb working again. He looked up and saw her. He walked toward her. "Are you okay?" he asked. Martha shook her head. "No." Caleb looked at her with concern. "What are you afraid of?" Martha looked at him and said, "I'm afraid they will take him away." Caleb's face became serious. "They won't. I won't let them." Martha nodded. She believed him, but she knew the fight was not over. The town would keep watching. The town would keep judging. And the fear would not leave her. That day, Martha made a decision. She decided that if the town would not accept Caleb, then she would have to leave. She would have to find a way to protect Tommy, even if it meant leaving everything behind. She did not know where they would go. She did not know how they would survive. She only knew one thing. She had to keep her promise. And she had to keep her son safe. Martha woke up before sunrise with a heavy feeling in her chest. The air outside was cold and still. She looked at Tommy sleeping in his cradle and felt her heart tighten. She knew the town would not stop. She knew the rumors would not stop. She knew the men would not stop trying to take her baby away. She had spent the night thinking about what she should do. She had thought about running away. She had thought about hiding. She had thought about leaving Tommy with someone else. But every idea felt wrong. Then she thought about Caleb. He had promised her that he would take care of Tommy. He had promised her he would keep the baby safe. She had seen him work hard. She had seen him care for her son like he cared for his own life. Martha knew she could trust him, but she also knew that trusting him might cost her everything. She looked at the notebook on the table. Inside it were the notes she had written about the ranch. She had written everything down because she knew she might not be able to keep the ranch. She had written the names of the animals. She had written where the water was. She had written the fences that needed fixing. She had written the list of tasks that needed to be done every day. She knew the ranch could not survive without someone to care for it. She knew she had to make a choice. She walked outside and saw Caleb feeding the horses. He looked up and noticed her. He came closer. "Good morning," he said softly. Martha held Tommy close and said, "We need to talk." Caleb nodded. "Of course." They walked toward the fence where the land was wide and open. The wind blew across the grass. The sun was rising slowly, painting the sky with soft colors. Martha looked at Caleb and said, "The town will not accept you. They will keep trying to take Tommy." Caleb's face grew serious. "I know." Martha took a deep breath. "I think we should leave." Caleb stared at her. He looked surprised. "Leave?" Martha nodded. "Yes. We can go somewhere else. Somewhere the town does not know us. Somewhere we can start over." Caleb was quiet for a moment. He looked down at Tommy. The baby was sleeping peacefully in Martha's arms. Caleb finally said, "That is a big decision." Martha nodded again. "I know, but I can't stay here. I can't keep living in fear. I can't let them take my son." Caleb looked at Martha carefully. He could see how tired she was. He could see how weak her body had become. He could see the fear in her eyes. He knew she was telling the truth. He said, "If we leave, you need to rest. You need to get stronger." Martha shook her head. "I'm not getting stronger. I'm getting weaker. The doctor said I'm dying." Caleb's face changed. He felt a pain in his heart. He looked away for a moment. Then he looked back at her and said, "Then we leave now." Martha's eyes filled with tears. She did not know how to respond. She felt a strange mix of fear and relief. She asked, "Where will we go?" Caleb looked toward the horizon. He did not answer right away. He seemed to be thinking. Finally, he said, "I know a place. It's far from here. It's quiet. It's a small ranch town, but people there are kinder. I used to pass through it once in a while." Martha looked at him. "Do you think they will accept us?" Caleb nodded slowly. "I think so, but we have to be careful. We must travel quietly. We must not draw attention." Martha nodded. She felt her body shake with fear, but she also felt a sense of hope. For the first time in a long time, she felt like there was a chance for her son to have a life, a chance for him to grow up with someone who loved him, a chance for her promise to be kept. That evening, Martha and Caleb prepared for their journey. Caleb packed only the essentials: food, water, and supplies for the baby. Martha packed a few important items, including the notebook with the ranch notes. She also packed a small blanket that had belonged to her husband. She looked at Tommy and felt her heart break again. She wanted to stay. She wanted to keep him close, but she knew she had to let go. Caleb noticed her sadness. He placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "We will be back one day." Martha shook her head. "No, I don't think I will be here to come back." Caleb's eyes softened. He looked at her and said, "Then I will come back. I will come back to tell you he is safe." She did not know if she believed him, but she wanted to. The next morning, before the sun rose, Caleb led the horse and prepared to leave. Martha held Tommy close. She looked at the ranch one last time. She thought about her husband. She thought about the life she had built here. She thought about the promises she had made. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Goodbye." Caleb nodded. "Goodbye." Martha climbed onto the horse behind Caleb. She held Tommy tightly. The horse walked slowly, and the ranch began to disappear behind them. As they traveled, Martha felt the wind against her face. She felt the cold air. She felt the fear. But she also felt something else. She felt peace. She knew that she was doing what she had to do. She knew that her son would be safe. The journey was long and difficult. They traveled through rough terrain, across rivers and hills. They slept in small shelters and under the open sky. Caleb carried Tommy when Martha felt too weak. Martha tried to rest, but her body continued to grow weaker with each day. One night, while they were resting by a small fire, Martha looked at Caleb and asked, "Do you think I made the right choice?" Caleb looked at her and said, "Yes, you did." Martha nodded, but she still felt doubt. She felt guilty for leaving the ranch. She felt guilty for leaving the life she had known. She felt guilty for putting everything on Caleb. Caleb noticed her worry. He said, "You are not weak for needing help. You are strong for doing what you must to protect your son." Martha listened to his words and felt a small relief. She knew he was right, but it was hard to accept. The days passed. The journey continued. Martha grew weaker, and Caleb grew more protective. He kept the baby close. He kept the fire warm. He kept them moving. Finally, they reached the small town Caleb had spoken about. It was quiet and peaceful. The people were kind, but cautious. They did not ask too many questions. They offered food and shelter without judgment. Caleb found work on a small ranch. He spoke honestly with the owner, Mr. Brown, and explained their situation. Mr. Brown listened quietly. He did not ask for proof or documents. He simply nodded and said, "If you can work, you can stay." Caleb worked hard every day. He woke early and worked late. He kept the ranch running. He made sure Tommy had everything he needed. He made sure Martha rested. Martha grew weaker, but she also grew calmer. She felt the town's kindness. She felt the peace. She felt like her son could have a future. One morning, Martha woke up and felt her body failing. She knew this was the end. She held Tommy close and looked at Caleb. "Thank you," she whispered. Caleb's eyes filled with tears. He held her hand gently. "You don't have to thank me," Martha smiled softly. "Yes, I do. You kept your promise." Caleb nodded. "I promised." Martha looked at Tommy sleeping peacefully in his arms. She whispered, "Take care of him." "Always." Caleb nodded again. "I will." Martha closed her eyes and fell asleep. She did not wake again. Caleb sat by her side for a long time, holding her hand. He felt a deep sadness, but he also felt a sense of purpose. He knew that he had to keep his promise. He knew that Tommy was now his responsibility. Years passed. Tommy grew up strong and kind. Caleb taught him how to ride, how to work, and how to survive. He taught him about honesty, hard work, and love. He never spoke badly about Martha. He never forgot her. Tommy grew into a young man who respected Caleb like a father. He asked Caleb about his mother sometimes. Caleb would tell him small stories, how she was brave, how she loved him, and how she did everything she could to keep him safe. Tommy listened quietly. He never asked for more. He never asked why she had to leave. He only knew that she had loved him. One day, when Tommy was older, Caleb stood outside the small house they lived in and looked at the horizon. He thought about the ranch where Martha had lived. He thought about the promise he had made. He knew he had kept it. And he knew that, even though Martha was gone, her love was still there. Tommy grew up with a life that he might not have had if Martha had stayed in the town. He grew up with a man who loved him and protected him. He grew up with a future, and that was the promise Martha had made.